click the link in the description below and pick up your tickets to the Culture War Podcast live this Saturday. Doors open at 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Oh, boy, we got some big announcements. We've got Alex Stein, Myron Gaines, Brian Shapiro, Jessica Misitano, and Farah Khalidi, a feminist OnlyFans model, who will be on stage debating modern dating. So this naturally will get pretty spicy. I think we're just a little bit more than half sold on the tickets, so there's still plenty of room for you guys, and we'd love to see you there. I don't know if J.D. Vance can muster the same kind of craziness that Trump can. I do think many liberals are just cultists. It's a non-theistic religion. Their ethos is fit in at all costs. But I wonder how many people are going to be J.D. Vance ambivalent, and if politics starts to wane without Trump being there.
So I got a question. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Like I've always made the comment, and people have like pushed back on me in this. Is like, I would like to go back to a time where it didn't seem like everybody was treating politics like a team sport, and people who, like, you'd call them a tourist, you'd say, you don't really have a lot of interest in this. You're just you've picked it up since Trump came into office, and perhaps you'll go by the wayside once he leaves. But I do think they'll end up keeping him on the ballot by saying, like, this is the guy that Donald Trump anointed as I remember we were talking at one point about how Trump didn't necessarily endorse Vance when he gave that first interview because he knows that it could probably be used against him down the line, right?
Against Vance.
Yeah.
I think Vance will want Trump support. I don't think Trump has that same.
But early on, I think they were saying that the idea was like, if his term is a dud and it doesn't go well, that doesn't help him.
Right.
Well, I think that's kind of obvious for, like, whoever the Republican is. You know, if the Republicans have not delivered for the American people, or if the American people don't feel like the Republicans have delivered, then that's going to be a bad thing for whoever the Republican is, whether it be Vance or whatever. This is why I'm so much of the opinion that, you know, at the end of the day, it really does boil down to what the economy's like, because the people will blame whatever party is in office at the time if the economy is not doing bad. If they feel like they're not able to make their dollar go far enough, if they feel like they can't put food on the table, and they're going to blame the whatever party's in office currently. So,
what do you think I mean, you guys are probably more plugged into this. Like, what is the general consensus from the public on the economy now?
I think most people feel like it could be better. I don't think that people are feeling like there's a boom time. I'm not sure exactly what could be done to get back to the heady days of 2018 and 19. But I think that people are still hurting out there, and I think that people still feel stressed. But I think the reason why that is because of how long it takes for wages to catch up to the inflation that happened, right? Like, inflation is a leader, wages catching up to inflation is lagging. It takes a long time for people's wages to get up to match what inflation happens. That's why inflation's so bad, and it's such a, you know, it's why it has such a negative effect, because inflation happens quickly. It can happen in a year or in 2 years. You can have prices go up by 20, 30, 40%, which is what actually happened here in the U.S. Things are like literally like 20 to 30% more expensive overall. The dollar lost like 20% of its buying power. And so you haven't seen wages go up 20 or 30%. So until the wages catch up, you know, people are going to feel like that. And I don't know that that is going to be solved by the end of Trump's term. So,
well, do you guys think the government's going to reopen before Thanksgiving?
I think the only way that the government reopens is if they do the filibuster thing. I don't think the Democrats are going to cave at all. I don't think they have to cave, because the longer this goes on, as they keep telling us, the better it is for the Democrats and for their priorities.
And low IQ voters will blame Trump for this anyways.
Well, yeah.
Sure, it's easier to blame Trump because he's one guy as opposed to blaming, like, just Congress.
Yeah. I think it's better just to call them by their proper name. Brett. Democrats will just blame Trump for all of this.
No, because I would push back on that. There's a lot of people that are right now really angry with Trump for a lot of things that Trump either didn't do, didn't actually happen, or things that they assumed were going to happen that he never made a promise on. There are a lot of people that are still mad about the Epstein files. Trump has said we need to release the Epstein files, and the people that are holding any additional evidence, the people that are holding it back are the courts. That's likely because there are minors in the Epstein files that they don't want to put their names out there. And that's typical of what courts do. So it's not that Trump is saying, oh, we need to hide them. It's that the courts have said no. Trump has come right out and has said, we need to release all the files that we can.
So we got this from Kalshi. How long will the government shutdown last? And the current forecast is 46 days, about $30 million wagered on this bet. 46 days, which means a little bit more than a week left is the projection. I've talked with some people in government, and they said Christmas. They said Christmas. The Republicans have no reason to reopen. Trump wants to use it as leverage to end the filibuster. Democrats think they're gaining from it, so why would they stop? Now, the sentiment now is considering they just won a bunch of races. They're like, okay, now we can end the government shutdown because we've milked it for all we can. The question is, will the Republicans... I don't know why the Republicans are keeping the shutdown going, considering they won in the filibuster either. Anyway, so what's the point of being shut down?
Well, they would have to approve the extensions on these health insurance subsidies, which is really just a continuation of COVID relief. I mean, these subsidies just came
No,
into...
even if Democrats caved,
right?
Republicans would just reopen government then? Just say, sure.
Yes. They just sign the CR. They keep voting for it. They keep voting for the CR.
If the Republicans allow Democrats to do this, man, I tweeted just now while y'all were talking that Republicans are retarded, but oh boy.
It's true. It's true.
If the Democrats just come to the table now and say, okay, open the government, and Republicans go, you got it.
Mm-hmm.
They really are.
But they are spineless turds. So you can see that that's what's going on right now in the Senate. Trump keeps having them over for breakfast, being like, yo, fellas and ladies, why don't you get this organized? Why don't you get yourselves together and do something? You know, you have some power. The American people gave you some power. Use it. And the Senate just keeps eating their little omelets and mini donuts, and they don't seem to care at all.
I have a question for you, Brett. Is the reason that schools getting rid of civics, is that why we're in the position that we're in?
Well, I think schools getting rid of civics is a big deal, but just getting back to what you guys were saying before about how people feel about the economy, what I know for sure is that young people feel the economy is absolute trash. And you see that with what goes viral on the internet. As soon as someone starts talking about, as soon as someone starts talking about the ability to buy a home, they don't have it. And what you get from that is young people who go to public schools and they're taught that, they're taught CRT, they're taught gender ideology, they're taught that the rich are abusing all of these people and there's the oppressed versus the oppressors. And then they're taught Keynesian economics. And when they turn 18 years old and they see Trump's in office and they see that the Republicans have been given power and they're not using that power to help the young people, what you get is a communist in New York City. And the Republicans, I mean, I worked hard. I fought for Trump, voted for him 3 times, but there's just no backbone there. And, you know, even like with taxes, like imagine how powerful it would be if they came out and said, we need to cut all taxes related to food, restaurants, shipping, farms, grocery stores, absolutely no taxes. Let's gut them, get rid of them completely, and let's drive these prices down. And people would get behind that, but they don't do it.
Those things would be state level things though, right? I mean, if there's no federal tax on food or anything.
Well, you know what I mean, though. The Republicans could get together nationwide and they could start pushing these agendas, and they can really start moving young people towards something. We saw with immigration, when you have an agenda that people feel is in their interest, they want to get behind it. And right now, the Republicans have been in power for a year, and I don't feel that enthusiasm. I don't feel the agenda.
I feel like Trump has kind of pushed the immigration issue as something that's going to be a long-form solution to help Americans. And a lot of people, they can't necessarily see that in the short term because they're hurting right now. And they're like, look, I love the long-term plan, but that doesn't always work when there's an immediate wound that needs to be fixed. And that's something that else we've talked about a lot on here is like when people get pushed to the brink economically, they're not going to look for free market solutions, especially young people. They are going to look for larger government answers, and that's of course guys like Mamdani.
When Trump was asked, I think it was 60 Minutes, or when he was told grocery prices are up, he says, no, they're not. And they are.
No, they definitely are.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how bad prices are. And that is going to impact the elections more than anything Trump is doing on foreign policy or on immigration, these raids. As much as I'm for that, I do think it's fascinating. There's this obsession with foreign policy among on the right, I suppose, particularly around Israel, because it is an issue that does not move American voters in any way.
Nope.
And it's funny when I talk to these Israel first people, because there's two kinds of Israel first. There's the diehard, they love Israel, and there's the Israel is the center of all problems in the universe, like Zoran Mamdani. When he said the NYPD, when they lace their boots, it's laced by the IDF, he's insane and retarded for saying that. When you tell them, yeah, American people just don't care about foreign policy, they desperately try to convince you it's the most important issue. And I'm like, okay, you are insane if you think that a working class guy who works at a factory is coming home and going, Israel, and not going, I can't afford food for my kids.
Well, that's because we're in a space where we get on these microphones and we talk about things in theory, and we talk about like more avant-garde political issues that the average person who's going to a 9-to-5 job doesn't take the time to read unless they're really, really into it in their free time. But it's like the kitchen table issues don't even matter anymore to the people in these spaces. And if Trump isn't paying attention to the kitchen table issues, then they've got a problem.
And the problem with that, of course, is that kitchen table issues are what got him to where he is, right? I mean, I'm pro-Israel for the most part, but really I care about when I go to the grocery store and instead of $150, it's $300, which lately my grocery bills, like normally my grocery bill is like $150. And the past 2 times it's been $300. And I'm like, what is this? Like, how is this happening? I'm buying the same stuff. Yeah. Last time I was at the grocery store, I picked up a steak. I was like, this looks like a nice steak. It was $45. And I was like, what is this? And it was just normal. It wasn't like some special ribeye.
I think the Biden administration has sabotaged this country to a point where Trump doesn't have a quick fix for it.
Yeah, I don't think there's a quick fix either.
The flooding of this country with illegal immigrants is jacking up prices across the board for low-skilled workers. It's making competition for these jobs insane, and in key areas, mind you, not everywhere. But it's also making it impossible for young people to buy houses. And what's crazy to me is, like, even where we are, there's massive developments popping up everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, who's buying these houses, honestly?
Also, if you look at the prices on these houses, because I look at these too, because they're everywhere. You're driving down the highway and you're like, wait, there's 500 new houses right there. They're like $500,000. Yeah. And you're like, I don't want to pay $500 for something like that.
I mean, are these just the houses?
They're just like a bunch of townhouses like stuck together. Like, you don't want it. That doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem like the right amount of money, like $450.
But it's impossible for a Gen Z 26, 27-year-old to buy this house.
Yeah, but I couldn't buy that house either.
They're going to get $100,000 in savings and a loan. It's not happening.
Well, and like, what percentage of these homes are being purchased by corporations? Like, I know we've had that discussion before, and it's not as high of a percentage as people think it is, but it's still, you're competing against, investment firms more than just going to rent it out.
Or just businesses in general.
Exactly.
Someone owns 10 houses and rents them. And it's largely boomers. I think we were talking about someone who brought it up. The median age for home buyers is 40 now.
Yeah, that's why there's 40. No kids out trick-or-treating anymore.
I hate to break it to you, millennials. 40 is grandparent age. Okay? You are at grandparent age at 40 years old. And that's not a joke. Historically, people were having kids around 20 to 22 years old. So it was funny when Ilhan Omar's daughter got arrested for protesting or whatever.
Oh, at Barnard? That was awesome.
But then everyone was like, Ilhan Omar's daughter? Yeah, she's 22. Yeah. How is that possible? Because Ilhan Omar's 42. And they're like, what?
Right. Yeah, she has.
Yes, it's called people have kids at 20. Yeah. You're a grandparent. So if the first house you're buying is at 40, wow, we are cooked.
Yeah, and this is why, if right-wing America wants to win, and you kind of talked about this at the beginning, where you talked about discord and building community. Well, if right-wing America wants to win, you have to start showing young people, and I interact with them every day, the benefits of capitalism. And I know a 14-year-old girl that runs a dog walking business, and she has 10 employees. I know a 15-year-old girl that's published 4 books, 4 novels, K.F. Barrett, and tons of kids with this type of story. And when you show these kids what capitalism could do for them and how they could earn money and how they could hire people and hire their friends, well, then when they turn 18, 19 years old, they'll see a pathway. They'll have hope in which they could buy that house. But right now, if the economy doesn't change and we keep allowing our children to be educated in this Keynesian economic theory model, then you're going to get more and more people who are turning 18 and they're turning to the left.
Well, also they were kind of sold on a world, like at least my generation was. I'm 39. You were sold on a world that didn't really exist anymore. That you were going to have your parents' life, where you had to go to college. Maybe your parents didn't have to go to college, but you were going to be able to go to college, and then you were going to be able to find a job, and you could work that job for 22 years and retire. And that's a fantasy that's not really a thing anymore, not in any real sense. And I feel like a lot of what I see from millennials is just burnout because life has become so complicated. Like I was talking to someone today about like the fact that I have to log in to like 9 things.
Oh, it is the worst.
Like your parents would have, their heads would have exploded if they had
My
to
head
like,
does explode.
like the guy who invented the password manager should get a Nobel Peace Prize and should be given a lifetime, like he should get a lifetime supply of everything because the average person having to do that stuff,
Yeah,
your
but
life
then what
is just.
happens when you forget the password to your password manager, as I have done? And like it's been months.
But like what you're talking about there's a burnout there. And for those people, like there's certainly a type of person who's business minded from a young age and they want to start a business, they want to do those things. But the school system doesn't in any way train you for that. The school system trains you to be able to take instruction, but not to actually move forward and develop plans of your own. It's like the idea of the person who runs a business not being somebody who actually teaches at business school, because the guy who teaches at business school is rarely successful in business.
Yeah, life school should be business school.
Yeah.
And all they do is teach these kids to memorize. And then from the time they're in first grade, they tell them the only path to success is college. And they tell them that all the way up to 12th grade. They don't teach them financial literacy. They get one course in 12th grade, and that's on micro and macroeconomic theory, not personal finance.
Yeah.
So these kids don't know what debt is. They don't know what interest is. They don't understand bankruptcy law and that college loans will be an unforgivable form of debt. The guidance counselors aren't doing cost-benefit analysis, so they should have the math done. They should know if I go to college and I major in feminism, then I'm going to be broke and I'm not going to be able to afford a house. And by the time they get out and they figure out what happened and they're 22, 23 years old, and now they get a job at a corporation and they're making $30,000, $40,000 a year.
If they get a job.
Yeah.
If they get a job, and forget about it if they're white and it's the DEI hires, not to bring race into it because it affects all people of all different races, but you get the DEI hires and it's very difficult to climb a corporate ladder and people get very disenfranchised. And I think we're seeing that in America. And the response to that, the answer to that should be as parents that we can start teaching young people these things from a young age. We can start teaching financial literacy in elementary school, and we can start teaching entrepreneurship in middle school and high school. And if you do that, I think what you'll see is a lot of young people who embrace right-wing America and free market capitalism.
But there's no middle ground there anymore, which is like what you're talking about. And it is kind of like a talking point on the right to say like college is a scam. But like 90% of the jobs that you're looking for out there now, they're going to require a 4-year degree and 10 years of experience to get an entry-level position. So no wonder people are disenfranchised when they're going to look for jobs after putting themselves into debt and they can't find it. And then there isn't a middle ground there where you start at the what is like the idea is like you started at in the mailroom and then you worked your way up at the corporation. They're not doing that anymore.
Well, how many people at this table have a college degree?
Nope.
Not all of them.
I mean, not 4-year, but yeah.
And the
paper napkin, basically.
The reason for
degree and a
that
paper
is
napkin.
Tim built a successful business, and now he could hire good, like-minded people.
I didn't go to high school.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? And most of my employees, some of them are high school dropouts and didn't go to college. So what you teach young people is that if you could be entrepreneurial and you could hire like-minded people, you start to raise people that aren't looking for those college degrees in sociology. I want employees who didn't go to college because then I don't have to deal with the indoctrination. I don't have to deal with all the HR issues and everything that comes along with entrepreneurship. And so I think a lot of the problems we face in the political realm, we could actually fix at the grassroots level, whether it's your Discord or whether it's people building businesses and educating their kids right from the start.
That's a
I like
massive
your idea.
undertaking to do. And like in the meantime, there's a lot of people that need jobs and the market doesn't, it doesn't conform
if the
to them.
jobs aren't there, I really like this idea of teaching people to be resourceful enough that you make your own job.
That's something that has to come from a very, very, very young age.
Mm-hmm.
And also
And I don't think if someone's an adult, like someone who is already an adult has a harder time developing these habits. That's just a reality.
Sure.
I mean, the personality matters too, though, because like if you're the kind of person that believes that that life happens to you, you're not going to be the kind of person that thinks I can go out and start this, I can go and do this. It is about attitude, but it's more about the type of personality that you have.
Go on, Sam.
No, finish your point because we're jumping into this next.
There's an exercise that every parent can do with their elementary school student, and you have them look out the window, and you ask them, what do you see out this window? And at first they say grass, and then you keep asking them, yeah, but what do you see? And eventually what you want them to come to is opportunity. They see the opportunity to cut the grass. They see the opportunity to plant seeds in the ground. They see the opportunity to sell the fruit that grows out of the trees. And what you teach them is that this is the window of opportunity, and everywhere around you, your entire life, you are standing in front of the window of opportunity. And if we raise our kids that way with that mindset and we help them get experience throughout their childhood, you get more and more people that are independent. And ultimately, the goal should be to raise free and independent people, because then they vote for a free and independent country.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.